if you found this video, you are probably someone with EDS or someone who knows someone with EDS who is looking at getting a wheelchair. This is the video that I wish I had had when I was getting fitted for my wheelchair for the first time as a person with EDS. Because a lot of ATPs, a lot of assistive technology professionals who do seating and mobility and positioning and all that, don't know a whole lot about EDS. They know how to fit a chair for someone with a spinal cord injury, but fitting someone with EDS for a chair is a little bit different. And this is kind of what I would call like a wheelchair evaluation guide for people with EDS. It goes over every possible thing that is going to be covered during your wheelchair fitting, all of the options and modifications that I have made to my chair and that most of my friends who also have EDS have made to their chair. And I have gone to 2 other wheelchair seating evaluations with 2 of my friends. They were like, hey, you know what you're talking about. Can you come with me and like tell them what you did? Because it seems like it's working very well for you. All of the choices that you're making for this, you're going to likely be stuck with for 5 years. Most insurances will not cover a new chair before you've had your old one for 5 years, which is another reason that I try to give as much information as possible to people who are getting their first chair. So my current chair is my first custom wheelchair. I had like a loaner in between rigid manual chair that wasn't specifically measured for me, but fit me well enough that I was able to use it until I got my custom one. And I did so much research before I got my custom chair. And again, all of this is just kind of a guideline for things that I have found helpful as one person with EDS. I have personally gone through National Seating and Mobility. I know some people go through New Motion. I found National Seating and Mobility just a little bit faster. So the structure that I'm going to be following is essentially what the Tylite order form is. Tylite is a brand of wheelchair, but these tips will kind of translate to any rigid manual custom chair. So the first thing to start with is your frame. Again, I go with Tylite. Tylite is something like the brand that I am the most familiar with, and that I have had the most positive experience with. I think when I got measured for my chair, I was in a Key Mobility Rogue, which was fine. Like, it wasn't bad, but I just felt like the Tylite that I sat in for my trial just felt better. It really just depends on your personal preference. Like, if you really like quickie chairs, if you like Key Mobility chairs, if you like Tylite chairs, if you like different like custom made ones from like smaller companies like Box Wheelchairs or Motion Composites or something like that. So there's 2 main metals that your frame can be made out of. It's aluminum or titanium. There are pros and cons to each, but I have found that aluminum, while it is a little bit heavier, it's usually like 2 or 3 pounds heavier than titanium. So a titanium frame by itself is like 9 pounds and aluminum frame is like 12 or 13 pounds. I have found that the aluminum provides more shock absorption because it is like a slightly softer metal, so it kind of absorbs some of the bumps as you're rolling, where titanium, you feel every single bump. The next option will be power assists. So there are a couple different options for power assists. There are powered wheels where the actual axle of the wheel is a motor and you can push it and it'll keep spinning for you. But that is one option. And then another option is attachable power assists. So there's 2 main ones that I know of specifically in the US. One of them is called the Firefly, and that attaches to the front, kind of like motorcycle handles, and it has a powered wheel on the front that you can kind of steer it like you're kind of on a trike. It lifts up your casters, which are your front wheels, your small wheels that get stuck on stuff, and it makes it so that you can go over more terrain. And also you have that power assist, so you don't have to be pushing as you're doing that. Like, it's pulling you along. And the other one that I have is a smart drive. So this attaches underneath your chair. This goes on your axle, and you can just kind of click it on and off. And then it attaches with a magnetic power cable. You turn it on, It blinks all pretty. And there's a couple different control options for controlling the speed. I have the dial, which I have found to be the most reliable, and which a lot of other people who have tried the older version of the Smart Drive with the different types of controls, like a switch control or the watch, I know people hadn't liked those because they were not stopping and starting, even when people were like pressing the buttons and like doing the things that it was supposed to make it stop. But I have found the dial to be fine. Like it does the job. It turns off when I need it to. It turns on when I need it to. It did have a recall because it was like shorting out on some people. I experienced that a little bit. But again, with the new dial that I got, it fixed the problem. And the only thing that you have to do is steer. So you just kind of hold on to one wheel to steer it one way and hold on to another wheel to steer it the other way. The reason that I always like recommend this to my friends who are getting chairs for EDS is because our shoulders are kind of a nightmare. Having to push so much can do a lot of like wear and tear and damage on them. So having something that helps you out so you don't have to push as much or as often is helpful. And transit tie downs. I got these. I have not used them a single time. So I would probably not get them again. But that is because I don't take public transit very often. If you are someone who does take public transit pretty often, I would say it is a good idea to get these because then you can just stay in your chair and be like hooked in to a bus, a train, etc. Frame finishes. If you want to have like fun like patterns, you can get what are called like frame tattoos on at least the Tie-Lite ones. And they have literally so many colors. I got white because I wanted mine to be neutral. But this, again, this is like so much all just personal preference. This is where I feel like the most important stuff comes in. All that other stuff was kind of just like aesthetics that like don't really make a huge difference in terms of the functionality of your chair. But this is like the nitty gritty, like measuring fit stuff that I think is super important. So your rear seat width, which is the width of the rear part of your chair where your butt and your hips go. Your ATP, your assistive technology professional, more often than not is probably going to say that you need extra room, like wider than you actually are in your butt in case you gain weight. From my experience, because I'm an ambulatory wheelchair user, I didn't gain a whole lot of weight. I still fit very nicely in my chair. So I would say the most, again, if you're very ambulatory and you're going to be walking more often than not and just using your chair for like really long distance things, I would say you don't need more than like an extra half an inch on each side of your hips. So if your actual hip measurement when you're sitting down is like 17, I would say don't get anything that's an inch wider than that, because that'll give you a half an inch on each side. Because the problem, what happens with a lot of people is their first chair, I know this happens for a lot of people with spinal cord injuries as well, is their first chair is like super duper wide. The problem with that is if you have a chair that is way wider than you actually are, your arms are going to be out like this and you're going to be pushing like this. Obviously not this dramatic, but like your arms are going to be at more of an angle than like straight down, which again, for people who already have kind of garbage shoulder joints, we need as much like ergonomic, well-fitting equipment as possible. Next is your front seat width. So we did rear seat width. Front seat width is where it's about where your knees are going to sit. There's a couple different options you can get. You can get what's called a taper. So if your hips are 17 inches with a taper, it'll kind of taper. But most people, like anatomy-wise, your hips are wider than your knees when you're sitting. That is like the taper on like this plane. And then the front of your chair, if this is the front of your chair, there's another taper of like the frame legs coming down. There are two different options you can get for your front taper. So you can get the standard taper front, which looks like this, or you can get a V front, which looks like this. I personally find that the V front allows me to get closer to things without my frame running into it. It hugs me better than a standard taper does. So seat depth is how long your femurs are. It's like from your butt to your knee, that length. So you want to make sure with this one, especially because we have skin sensitivity and we have fragile skin, you want to make sure that your seat cushion and your seat sling, which is what holds your seat cushion, aren't rubbing the back of your legs. This is a pretty standard measurement. Most ATPs will make sure that like you have at least like a half an inch or an inch behind your calves before the seat cushion like starts. Your front seat height is, again, another pretty standard measurement. It's about from your knees to your ankle-ish. Again, this is a pretty standard measurement. Shouldn't really cause too many issues. Rear seat height is something that if you get an adjustable chair, it can be helpful to have it set at like your preferred height when you get your chair delivered, but you can also adjust it later, which is what I did with mine. So this is essentially how much like dump you have in your chair. So like the angle of your seat. I personally like chairs that have more of a dump because it feels like I'm sitting in the chair rather than on top of it. And I feel way more stable and secure and like I'm not going to fly out of the chair if I hit a bump. So you can get chairs that are adjustable. Chairs that are adjustable are a little bit heavier just because they have more moving parts. So there's more metal, which just adds like incremental little bits of weight. I think for your first chair, it's best to get an adjustable one because if there is something that you're not happy with, that you want to change, that you need to adjust based on your needs. Like I know when I got back surgery, I changed a couple different things. Being able to like change and adjust those things was really nice. And then when you get your next chair, you have a better idea of like what actually works for your body. I have a pretty intense seat dump. I think mine is 3 or 4 inches, which is kind of a lot. But that is just what I have found to be the most comfortable and stabilizing for my pelvis and my hips and gives me the least amount of lower back pain and hip pain. So this will be something that you can kind of mess around with your ATP, or if you learn how to adjust your chair yourself, which is what I did for mine because I was not about to wait 4 months to get a single adjustment done that I can do in my house. That's the other thing that happens a lot with chairs is because it is such a overworked and understaffed field, there is a lot of waiting to get stuff done. So like if you need a new cushion, if you need a new backrest, if you need new tires, it's gonna take probably a couple months to get them in. Or if you need something repaired, it's probably gonna take a couple weeks to a couple months to get in with your ATP. Or if you need something adjusted, again, probably gonna take a couple weeks to a couple months. So I have found it really useful to be able to do it myself at home. And I've also done it for my friends' chairs because they're like, I don't want to have to wait 4 months to adjust the height of my backrest if I can learn how to do it myself or have you do it for me. And I'm going to make some other videos on how to do like basic adjustments on your chair. And then I'll probably do like more of the like intense ones like your dump and your center of gravity and stuff like that. But any like basic adjustable things, I will make more videos about those in the future if you want to learn how to adjust your chair yourself. Again, I'm not an ATP. I have just figured out how to do these things by watching a lot of videos on wheelchair maintenance and repair and adjustment, and kind of trial and erroring it for myself for the last 3 years, and then also working on my friends' chairs and getting feedback from them. Take whatever I say with a grain of salt. I am not liable. Consult your ATP if you're really worried about adjusting something. Okay, front angle, which is the angle that your front of your wheelchair is at. I feel like I'm over-explaining some of this stuff. I have mine at 85 degrees. I like having my ankles a little bit like tucked back. And again, having this angle more tucked under, so closer to 90 degrees, allows you to get closer to things. If you have more of an outward angle, your feet are going to run into things before your body gets close to them, which I don't personally prefer. But anything between like 75 to 85 degrees, I have found to be the most comfortable for my body. And I know that my friends have found that that is their go-to as well. Then there's seat to footrest, which is another standard measurement that your ATP will know how to do. Your footrest width. The main thing to consider here is like what type of shoes you normally wear. If you wear a lot of like really chunky shoes that take up a decent amount of width, you're gonna want to get your foot plate a little bit wider to accommodate your shoes. If you don't wear wide shoes, you can just kind of go with like the standard taper based on if you get a V taper or if you get a regular taper. I think mine is about a 2.5 inch taper. My front of seat width is like 14.5, and then my footrest width is 12. That I have found, again, to be the most comfortable, to kind of still hug me but not make me feel like squished. And that's what I have found, that 2.5 inch difference from the front of your chair down to your casters. I'm kind of skipping around here on the order form because for some reason they don't put the type of foot plate you get with like the footrest width, but I'm going to talk about different types of foot plates. So there are like your standard foot plates that don't move, that are just there. There are your angle adjustable ones, and then there are your flip up angle adjustable ones. I personally have found that the flip-up angle adjustable ones are the most accommodating for being ambulatory. If you're not going to be ambulatory, you don't really need a flip-up foot plate, but it just gives you a little bit more clearance, and like you're able to actually get your feet underneath you when you're standing up from your chair rather than having to like scoot to the front of your seat and then put your feet out in front of you and stand up. This does impede on some accessories that you can get for the front of your chair. Like the freewheel doesn't work on flip-up foot plates. So if that is something that you're interested in, maybe get like a standard or an angle adjustable one. Okay, next is back support and like your backrest as a whole. I personally have only tried 2 different types. No, I've tried 3 different types of backrests. So I had like the standard one that came with my chair when I first got it, which was just like the upholstered, like tension adjustable one. Hated that. Didn't have like any support. It was literally just like elastic that had like cushiony mesh fabric over it, and it was not enough to support my spine. And then I tried a J backrest, which I really liked. And I used that up until I got my new backrest. The only reason I got a new one is because the J one was kind of like wearing out. So I got a Key Mobility backrest, which is essentially identical to the J one. It's just new. So it's more cushiony. It comes with, I don't know if the J ones come with an extra piece of foam, but the Key Mobility one that I got came with an extra piece of foam. Again, this is more like personal preference. You can figure out, you can ask your ATP if they have a couple different chairs with different types of backrest that you can try. I would say if you can get a solid, rigid backrest, to do that, because it's going to offer you more support and it's going to last longer than a tension adjustable one would. There are also different like shapes of backrests you can get. I have the lowest version. I think the shortest version of the Key Mobility one that you can get. And then both of my friends who have their chairs have the like medium height one, which has an extra piece in the middle that helps support your spine a little bit more. And it kind of wraps around your sides a little bit more to give you more lateral support. Again, this is mostly personal preference. If the more that you can sit in and try, the better. because again, you're going to be stuck with this thing for 5 years. So getting something that works for you really well is super, super important. Then there's seat back type, which is like the mounting hardware that your backrest will actually go on. I got the adjustable folding aluminum one. The folding aspect of it makes it easier to fit in a car, in a plane, in any small space where you need to be able to kind of compact your chair down a little bit. It does add weight because it does have moving parts, so it has more metal. Again, I think it is worth it because it's also adjustable, so I can decide what angle I want the backrest at. I can decide how far back I want my backrest to sit in the mounting hardware. I can decide how tall I want it to be. Like, even though the backrest itself is only 12 inches, I can shift it up and down on the mounting hardware to have it sit up higher if I find that I need more support down the road. And this is kind of based on personal preference, but I think getting something that is adjustable for your first chair is worth the extra weight, because you can really figure out like what works best for you, and then you can make it like not adjustable for your next one, and eliminate some of that weight later. Push handles. I have a love-hate relationship with push handles. So push handles can be really, really helpful, especially if you don't have a power assist, and especially if you get fatigued or have pain really easily while you're pushing. I personally got bolt-on, adjustable, removable push handles that, because my parents are really tall, so if they ever have to push me, I can adjust it so they're like tall enough for both of them, because they're very tall. I don't normally have my push handles attached to my chair because I don't want strangers thinking they can just come up and like push me out of the way, or like if they're like trying to help me and they like push me to move me, like don't touch my chair, don't touch my chair, don't touch my chair, don't touch my body, don't touch my chair, you know? So I really just normally keep my push handles off. I don't ever really have them on because I have my smart drive. It does essentially the same job as someone pushing me. And if need be, if someone really needs to like push me without like my smart drive or without push handles, they can just grab the top of my backrest and push on the top of my backrest. But again, this comes down to how often do you think you are going to need or want someone's help? There are a couple different types that you can get. Again, I got the bolt-on adjustable because I can change the height in case somebody taller is pushing me, and I can just kind of tuck them away or take them all the way off if I don't want them. There's also built-in flip-downable ones that are like mounted into your backrest hardware, but they can fold down so they look less like push handles, so people don't touch them when you're just out and about. And then there's like the regular style ones that are just like the integrated ones that are just always there, always ready to go. Seat back angle. Again, I got the angle adjustable backrest, so this didn't really matter when I chose it, but I think I had it set at 89 degrees. If you get the adjustable one, you can probably just set it at like 89 degrees. The center of gravity. This is really important and affects how tippy your chair is. To start off, I did not have a very tippy chair. I had a very, like, my center of gravity was pretty far back. And the more comfortable that I got in my chair and the more that I realized I wanted to be able to, like, wheelie over obstacles, I moved my center of gravity up. So my center of gravity right now, I think is 4 inches. One of my ATPs measured it the other day, and he was like, "Oh my God, you have a very tippy chair." And I was like, "That's the way I like it." But this also impacts where your wheels are in relation to your shoulders and your torso. So if your center of gravity is too far back, you're going to be reaching backwards to push, which is not great for your shoulders. So the way that I learned from other wheelchair users of how to choose your center of gravity is you want your axles, like your axle pins, to be in line with your fingers when your hands are at your side. Just because then you like have the ability to be kind of tippy, but then you're also not like reaching too far forward or too far back to push. Again, this is adjustable on my chair, so if there are times where I feel like I need more tip, where I need less tip, or like when I got back surgery, I didn't want it to be as tippy, I moved it back so I had a little bit more stability. I would say a good place to set it when you first get your chair is between 2 and 3 inches, and then you can move it forward or backward as feels comfortable. Rear wheel spacing is just how far away the wheels are from the frame. Standard, I think, is an inch. I want to say mine are either an inch or a half inch. I actually don't know what mine are. It was whatever the standard was on the order form because I wasn't that worried about it. To go with that, I'm also going to tie in camber right now. Again, this is kind of going out of order of the order form. So camber is how angled your back wheels are. So if it's 0 degrees of camber, they are completely parallel. There is no angle to them. About 2 degrees of camber, the bottom of the wheels is a little bit more angled, and that provides you more stability to prevent you from tipping side to side. And then if you've seen like sports chairs, they have a really, really intense camber to, again, help them to prevent them from tipping over side to side. It gives me more lateral stability without making the footprint of my chair too much wider. So the next is seat upholstery. So this is what your cushion sits on. So there is tension adjustable bolt on or tension adjustable by strap. I have the tension adjustable bolt on. I do notice, because I've had my chair for a couple of years, it does sag in the middle because it's just like stretched out. And I try to adjust it as I can to like kind of pull it tighter because it has Velcro underneath that you can like undo the bolts and then pull it tighter. I can't get it to tighten very well. For my next chair, I might try a solid seat because you can get like solid aluminum or solid titanium. Seat, cushion, arguably one of the most important decisions about your chair because it's what you're going to be sitting on all day or for however long you're in your chair. I have tried 3 different types of cushions. There are mainly 3 different like formulations of cushion. There is foam, gel, and air. And then there are kind of like fusions of each of those. For me personally, I have found foam has been my regular cushion that I have had the longest. I just got an air cushion last week, and I do like it so far in terms of like pressure relief and comfortability in terms of like how it feels on my skin. Stability wise, because the air can kind of flow in it, I do feel a little wobbly on it. There are, I would say, like 3 or 4 main brands that you're going to see that you can choose from. So there are Roho cushions, which is the air cushion that I got. So this is the Roho. This is called an ISOFlow valve or something like that. So when it's green, the air can flow freely through all of the air cells, which look like this. They're individual little air cells. So when that valve is open, the air can flow between all of them freely. When that valve is closed, the air stays in each quadrant. These have a little bit more maintenance required than foam or gel cushions because they are air. You do have to kind of make sure that you don't have leaks, make sure that you are refilling it and testing like the amount of air that's in it, I don't know, like every 2 weeks or something like that. And they can pop. Not very often, but if you have cats, if they sneed on it, they're going to poke a hole in it and then you're going to have to patch it. The patch kits don't always work and they're really expensive to replace. They are really good for people who have nerve damage because they provide the most documented most amount of pressure relief and skin protection for people who have nerve damage, usually people with spinal cord injuries. And they're also really good for temperature regulation because the air is flowing through them, which can help if you get really hot in the summer like I do. Because foam and gel, well, a little bit more solid, a little bit more stable, do get really hot because they just hold all of your body heat. So I know for me, if I'm sweating in the summer, I got swamp ass when I'm sitting on my foam cushion because that heat's not going anywhere. She's sinking into that foam and she's reverberating back at me. Again, this is really, really up to personal preference and what feels best for your body. So again, there's the Roho cushions or the air cushions. The cushion I have is the Key Mobility Axiom G. There's a bunch of different Axiom cushions from Key Mobility. They're all foam or foam and gel. Then there is J cushions, which are, again, a mixture of foam and gel. Really just try and sit on as many cushions as you possibly can. Like if your ATP is able to get like demo cushions for you to try, sit on as many as you can to find what feels, again, best for you and your body. Okay, moving on to front wheels. These are your caster wheels. They are the tiny little wheels that are at the front of your chair. The bigger these wheels are, the easier it's going to be for you to get over bumps, cracks, little obstacles like that. But the bigger the wheels are, then the bigger turning radius you have and like the harder time you have with like fine maneuverability. I personally have 4 by 3¼ inch wheels because I do a lot of stuff on stage and I do adapt choreography, so I need to have a pretty tight turning radius and be able to move pretty swiftly and efficiently. But if you want something that makes it a little bit easier to get over obstacles, especially before you know how to do wheelies to get over stuff, getting a slightly bigger wheel, like a 5 by 1, like 5-inch diameter by 1 inch width, or even a 4 by 1, even just a little bit more width will give you a little bit of an easier time to get over obstacles like that. You can also get fun ones. I right now have light up ones on, which I really like, especially at night in parking lots. Makes me easier to see, which is helpful. Then there are your caster forks. They're the things that are on either side of your caster wheel that hold it in place and that the axle goes through. I just got the standard ones. Rear wheels. This is also going to make a big difference depending on what you get. So size-wise, the standard size is 24 inches. I have 26-inch wheels. I have a freakishly long, tall torso. So when I'm sitting, if I have 24-inch wheels, I'm like, I can't reach them. They're too far away. I'm too tall. So I had to get 26-inch wheels so that I'm able to reach them comfortably. But anytime that any of my other friends sits in it, because they have like either normal or shorter torsos, it's like my wheels are like in their armpits because they're sitting so low in my chair. Kind of go with your ATP on this one. They'll probably be able to steer you in the correct direction. Make sure that you, before you like sign any paperwork, when your chair is done, sit in it, test it before you sign anything. And if there's anything you're not happy with, don't sign the paperwork and ask if they can change it. And then there are performance wheels versus standard wheels. Again, for the average user, especially people who are not full-time wheelchair users, these don't make a whole lot of difference. I have the standard Tylite ones. I think they're fine. There's performance ones that are slightly more efficient for pushing and slightly lighter, but they're also like $1,000 instead of like $300. Most insurances won't cover them. And then the other part of your wheels is your tires. Again, personal preference. I think pneumatic tires are better for me than solid tires. Solid tires have substantially less maintenance involved because you don't have to fill them with air. They're not going to pop because they're solid. There's like a foam insert in them instead of air. However, they are significantly heavier than pneumatic tires. And I have found that they're also bumpier because they don't have that like cushion of air. They just have solid foam in them. So they're like, they just roll a little like more aggressively. And I don't find them as comfortable when I'm sitting in my chair. My first chair had solid tires and I really didn't like them. Yes, the pneumatic ones you do have to kind of do more maintenance on. Like I usually fill mine and like check my air pressure like every 2 weeks to every month. If I'm really bad, sometimes I'll go like a couple months without checking it. But you can kind of tell when your pressure is getting low because it feels harder to push. If you're gonna be somewhere where there's a lot of sharp things, like one of my friends she likes to do woodworking, so I was like, depending on how much you're gonna be in the shop with your chair, you might want to get solid tires, because the possibility of nails, staples, screws, all of those things hitting your chair and popping your tire is something to consider. If that's not something that you're going to be dealing with in your daily life, get pneumatic ones, because I think they're lighter, they are like more shock absorbing, and they just feel smoother, in my opinion. And if you need like a new inner tube, or you need like something fixed with them, or if you need them inflated, find your local bike shop. They are going to be so helpful. And a lot of the times, if you do need like a new like tire tread, they are going to be able to do it for cheaper and faster than a seating clinic. And then two of the last things from your wheels are your axles, which is what attaches your rear wheels to your chair. There is like standard axles, which you press with your thumb to release. And then there are quad release axles that you flick like a tab up and then they can release. If you have issues with finger hypermobility and have difficulty pushing on things, you could get the quad ones. I haven't found any issue with it, and my thumbs are kind of janky, but I find that the regular ones are just fine. You can get aluminum or titanium. The other thing for your wheels are your push rims. For us especially, having a push rim that is ergonomic and easy to grip and fits well in our hands is substantially more impactful than for someone who doesn't have a connective tissue disorder. So anytime that I am going with someone to get their wheelchair fitting, I always tell them to get the natural fit hand rims. This is like what the standard tube of a standard push rim looks like. It's just a circle, which is fine for someone who has like good dexterity and grip strength and like doesn't have fingers that dislocate or sublux. The natural fit ones have an oval shape, so there's more grip surface, and it's just ergonomically better for our hands. There are two different sizes. There's the natural fit and then the natural fit light. I have the natural fit light. I think it feels a little bit easier to grab than the natural fit, but again, if you can try this with your ATP, you can figure out which one feels better for you. There's also the option to add thumb guards, which some people really, really like, and some people really don't. I'm one of the people that really doesn't like the way they feel, because I want to be able to like really grab all the way around my push rim, where the thumb guard kind of stops that from happening. Personally, don't like the way they feel. If you want to try them, you can always get your push rims with the thumb guard and then have them taken off later. There's ones called the Surge Natural Fit, which are essentially the same thing, but they just have like, it's called a gription strip that goes along the top of the oval that allows, like, it's a grippier texture. So it gives you more grip, especially when it's wet, because most push rims do get really slippery when it is raining or snowy outside. When I get my next chair, I'm probably going to try the Surge ones, just because I do notice that I have a lot of trouble gripping when it's wet or snowy or if I'm sweaty. Wheel locks is the next thing. I find pull to lock easier on my hands. Some people find push to lock easier on their hands. I also find pull to lock way less in the way when I am pushing, because in their locked position, the locks are closer to your wheels. In the unlocked position, they're down, so they're out of your way. With push to lock, it's the opposite. So in their locked position, they're down, they're more out of the way. In the unlocked position, they're closer to your wheels, so you have more of a chance of whacking the crap out of your thumb on it, which again is why I like pull to lock better. There are also scissor locks, which people like because, again, they're more low profile. They stay tucked under your chair when you're not using them, but I know that some people have issues with like flipping them out with like our wrists and our hands, it's a little bit harder just because it's more finger dexterity and strength. Side guards are something that I have not figured out what works for me yet. I currently just have the aluminum ones, but because I have really big wheels, they sit lower than my wheel. So anytime that like there's dirt or water on my wheel, it just comes over the side guard and hits my clothes anyway. You can get carbon fiber, which is lighter, again, reduces the weight of your chair, but it's more expensive. And you can get fendered versus non-fendered. So fendered, if this is your wheel, if you're looking at it like straight on, if this is the top of your tire, fendered side guards come over it ever so slightly. This helps if there's like dirt and rain and crap flying off of your tire. It's going to hit the fender and not be able to come over. If you just get a regular side guard, it might fly off and like come over a little bit, but I like to be able to grip my wheel if I need extra traction. And with a fendered side guard, you can't do that because it's covering the part of the wheel that you would grab. Armrests. This is very much personal preference. I have the removable flip-up armrests. I can use them when I want them, and I can take them off when I don't. I haven't had them on for a while, but I had them on, and I liked them when I had them on, and then I took them off, and then I was like, oh, I don't really need them. They can be a little bit bulky when you're pushing, just because they are in between your arm and the wheel, and your arm and your torso, so you can't get your elbows as tucked in. You can kind of like get used to them, and then you don't really notice that they're there. Seat belts. I got a seatbelt on mine that I took off almost immediately, but it is a good idea if you have the transit tie downs, because again, then you can like seatbelt yourself into your chair, be like securely seatbelted in, like you're in a regular seat with your transit tie downs locked in. Or if you don't have great core strength and stability, if you want something that's going to hold you in your chair just in case, getting a seatbelt is another good option for that. Calf straps. So this goes behind your calves and keeps your feet from slipping backwards off your foot plate. Some people really like having these. Other people don't like them at all. Like I know Kaylee doesn't have one, but I don't know if this is the reason she doesn't have one, but when she is dancing, she usually kind of tucks her foot back behind her foot plate to stop her wheel if she's doing something with her arms. So not having a calf strap is really helpful for her in that regard, because she can move her foot behind it in order to stop her chair while she's dancing. I like having it because it gives me like proprioceptive feedback of where my legs are in space, and I just think it's more comfortable. I would recommend getting one of the padded ones if you can. I just have like the regular like woven one, and if I don't wear tall socks, it really cuts into my ankles and is super uncomfortable. Anti-tips. I am going to sound like such a parent when I say this. Please, for the love of God, get anti-tips. You don't have to keep them on, but at least when you first get your chair, when you are learning how to use your chair and figuring out how tippy your chair is and figuring out how to do wheelies, having anti-tips is going to prevent you from getting a really nasty concussion if you tip back out of your chair. I still keep mine on because I have used a chair that didn't have anti-tips on them and went to reach for something and fell backwards and landed on my back and hit my head. I know some people don't like the way that they look. I know that some people need to be able to do a deeper wheelie for whatever they are doing. If it is at all possible, please use them, because they are going to prevent injury and they are going to make you just a little bit safer. Just a little bit safer. Your ATP can also adjust the height of these. So like if you want just a little bit of like fallback protection, but you don't want to be like completely hindered from doing a pretty substantial wheelie, can have your ATP adjust the height of your tip guards. When they first come, you're not gonna be able to move more than this much. Like they're gonna stop you from going back pretty much at all. I raised mine about as high as they can go, so they're still there. They'll still catch me, but I can wheelie like as far as I need to. I know, again, I sound like a parent, but like I have seen so many people tip backwards out of their chairs and get head and neck injuries, and I'm like, we're already battling our connective tissue, people. We don't need another injury. And with that, that concludes the wheelchair evaluation guide for EDS patients. I know this was a lot of information. This is just a rough guide. This is the things that I have found helpful, that I know a couple of my friends with EDS have found helpful. Use what works for you. Figure out what doesn't. Figure out what you need. Advocate for yourself at your wheelchair fitting. I want this to be kind of like a stand-in for me not being able to go to wheelchair fitting appointments with people. Like this, you can take me with you to your wheelchair seating appointment if you would like, virtually, and use this video as a point of reference. If you would like to learn how to adjust and maintenance your chair, I'm going to have a couple videos about doing basic maintenance, basic adjustments, and then more advanced adjustments, hopefully over the next couple of weeks. And if there's anything that you have any questions about, you can always leave a comment in the comment section, or if you would like to send me an email, I'll also have my email in the description. I really hope that this is helpful, and I really hope that it makes you feel more empowered to make the decisions that work best for you and your body. And I'm really proud of you for taking the steps to accommodate your body in the way that it needs to be accommodated. Okay, that's all from me. Okay, bye.